Greetings, citizens of York. My name is Alistair Lord and I'm an independent candidate for York Central at the upcoming general election, and I would like you to vote for me. Today I'm talking about my fourth policy, which is an evidence-based approach to UK drug law. In June 1971, which coincidentally is the month that I was born, Richard Nixon, former US President Richard Nixon, declared the war on drugs. So literally the war on drugs has been raging my entire life. Its stated aims were 1, to reduce the number of drug addicts, and 2, to reduce the supply of drugs. It has failed on both counts. Uncoincidentally, the Misuse of Drugs Act was enacted in the UK in 1971. In 1971, there was just over 1,000 registered heroin addicts who were prescribed heroin by their GP. This system ended in 1971 because Britain joined in to America's war on drugs, and now we have more than 100,000 heroin addicts in the UK, all of whom are criminalised because what they are doing is illegal. Now, as it happens with heroin, the majority of problem heroin users are using it to self-medicate for trauma. Now, these people shouldn't be criminalised, they should be treated. Who wouldn't want an evidence-based approach to drugs? Well, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown wouldn't. So I remember towards the end of Tony Blair's time as UK Prime Minister, the drug czar, Professor David Nutt, was appointed, and he carried out research on the harms of various types of drugs. And the Labour Party at the time didn't like his results because it didn't chime well with Daily Mail readers and people they thought were voting for them then but would probably vote Conservative at the next election. So they binned this evidence-based approach and just carried on doing what the Americans told us, which was carry on with the war on drugs. So who has benefited from the war on drugs? Well, organised crime have benefited because they control the supply of illegal drugs on planet Earth, and the cocaine and heroin trade are worth billions, possibly trillions every year, not to mention other drugs as well. But the majority of this illegal trade is controlled by organised crime. The for-profit prison industry has benefited. The Drugs Enforcement Agency in America continue to justify their own existence and their own budgets. So what's the cost of the war on drugs? Well, you as a taxpayer are funding it, and you're getting extremely poor value for money. And this isn't just me saying this. Retired undercover police officer Neil Wood, you can check out his website. He's been interviewed on 4 or 5 different podcasts, and he was infiltrating drug gangs in the UK for over 14 years. And Neil Woods says that the prohibition of drugs has led to a higher level of violence in the UK. But we could have known this before the war on drugs started, because prohibition was enacted in the United States of America in the 1920s, and organised crime controlled the supply of alcohol when it was illegal. Now here in York, we don't have fights between the staff of different pubs. You know, the staff of the Old Star Inn are not battling the staff of the Lendl Cellars for control of the alcohol trade because it is legal and regulated. Now, we can see countries in Europe, Portugal and Holland, where the drug market is either legalised or decriminalised, but it is regulated. When Portugal decriminalised the possession of small amounts of drugs, drugs death fell. Crime because of drug-related crime fell. Violence related to drugs fell. It was a win-win for the police, the citizens of Portugal, and for those people who were using drugs in Portugal. So it seems quite obvious to me that we need an evidence-based approach to drug law in the UK, and also we need to remove ourselves from America's damaging war on drugs. Thank you for giving me your time today, and remember, On July the 4th in York Central, vote Lord.